2, 1. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first ever episode of Video Game Movie Mania. 'Tis I, Captain Logan, and joining me tonight is my regular co-host for this program, Austin, the Day Ghost.
Game on!
And tonight we've got a special guest, very last minute. In fact, Brandon didn't even know about this until about 45 minutes ago.
It's Tron tonight.
Oh, Tron? I'm not
Yes.
going to remember to say that. Hi, Tron. Thanks for being here, man.
Hey, Cap. Thanks for having me, as always.
So Brandon will be the closest thing to a Tron expert we'll have this evening, and Austin and I are just here because we said we'd do a bunch of video game movies, and here we are. This is a movie that I've not seen in a really long time, and Brandon, I don't know this movie real well, because when I was a kid I thought it was boring,
Right.
and I thought it was fascinating looking, but I was looking at my watch. Years later, when I found out this movie was only an hour and 35 minutes, my mind was blown, because I was like, well, I was sucked into a time vortex, because I guarantee you, I spent somehow 4 hours watching it.
There you go.
It was very much a Star Trek: The Motion Picture sort of situation, except that movie is at least at 2 hours. That's got to be longer than that, but it's not the 6 hours I remember it. And then I saw it again a few years ago, or maybe right around when Legacy came out.
I think it was right before Legacy, because I remember that being
11 years ago now.
Gosh, I remember that being the last time I saw it too. But I just remember things about this movie because I saw it as a kid. I loved it. Then I was really interested, in the computer graphics and stuff that they went, and the ideas that they went with.
Yeah.
Tron Legacy, not so much, but that's another.
No, and hopefully
story
we can have
for another
you
day.
for that as well. But
hopefully you'd have me for a lot of these, because there's quite a few on that list I'd love to see.
Yeah. You told me you were looking at that today, and that made me go, I should have invited Brandon on this in the first place. And so anyway, here's Brandon. Big
Well,
surprise
living only
appearance.
5 minutes away, literally, you can do that, and it's okay. So,
Yeah.
I don't mind.
That helps a lot. So, Austin, for anybody that hasn't seen our social media and our announcement yesterday about this, just break down real quick for everybody what we're doing and how often with the show.
So we are doing video game movies and a mix of movies based around video games. Not every movie that has video game stuff in it, but there was a few exceptions we wanted to include. And we're doing
the intro was misleading because I didn't tell DJ anything when I asked him to make that intro. And he did a great job with that. It is a template, but he made it look great. And he said every video game movie, and I was like, well, it isn't that, but I didn't get it until 5 minutes before I announced with it. So there it was. But it's going to be close. We're going to do a lot of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're doing at least all the theatrical stuff, which is quite a bit, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And we're going to be doing it every other week. So.
Just like we did the last round of Marvel Mania. Mm-hmm. So this will be the new iteration of traditional Manias now, where it's not every day like what Eric and I were doing, or ostensibly doing.
And there's me, I just have a mania.
You just, yeah. You're a
But
maniac.
Maniac, that's right.
Austin, some folks seem a little bit concerned with the sheer number of, for lack of a better way of putting it, pieces of trash that are on the list. There's a lot of not good stuff that we're going to have to sit through, and that's part of why we do these blind, or we're doing this set blind. That's what Eric and I did with the Manias years ago. Getting into the Marvel stuff, where there was kind of more interest, especially live with that show, DJ and I started kind of cheating and preparing a little bit more for that. We would make sure to at least have a recent watch of a lot of those movies. We're not going to do that with this, because Austin has suggested to me that a number of these, not Tron specifically, but a number of these, especially the more kind of indie things and the Yule Bowl of it all, will be silly enough and weird and bad enough that it might be more fun for people to see our responses in the moment and the first time I've seen these things than if we actually prepared for them. So it was hard not to watch Tron today, because I would rather have this fresh in my mind, but I'm intentionally not doing that, because this is going to be probably about as riff tracksy as we get.
So I don't know.
I've had some people come to me and be like, I can't wait to see how Cap reacts to the later Resident Evil films where they stop caring and it becomes completely insane.
They do become insane. Those I've seen.
Yeah,
I can't believe. I could never understand how you, for years, would watch a movie earlier in the day and then watch it later in the day. There are very few movies. There are some, but very few I could do that with. So I've always commended you for that.
Oh, thanks. Well, it's just a work thing. Like when we do this, especially if it's a movie that I've watched in preparation for a thing, it doesn't feel as much like watching the thing because you're also kind of doing a job and trying to make trying to make content at the same time. So yeah, I mean it's nice when it's fresh in my mind. Although sometimes it's kind of nicer if you did it a day or two ahead.
That also would work.
But yeah, so Tron, 1982, 2 years before I was born. Kind of astounding to think that the first movie that used this much, not the first movie to use any computer visual effects, but the first to use this much and for it to be as much a part of a narrative as opposed to just being the like graphics on a monitor or something, came out only 2 years before I came into existence.
And 4 before me.
We won't talk about how young Austin is. But anyway, Austin, Brandon, are you guys ready to...
This came out 2 years after my mom was born, so...
So anyway, you guys ready to...
It's 4 after my dad, so 2, 4, it works out.
Nicholas Montes says, this has better cinematography and color design than Legacy, despite the disparity in technology. Yeah. Shots fired.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
Thomas Lono, Cap, you started the Mania with the best video game movie. You will be disappointed by the end of this. I alluded to that in my trailer for this video. I was like, I really hope that this is not the best experience that we have in all 50-plus episodes of this we're going to be doing. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started with it, shall we? This movie is available on Disney+, hopefully if you're watching live. And thanks for being here, folks. You've already pulled the movie up, but if you want to watch it some other way, just make sure, if you're watching it after the fact or not, make sure that you get out your DVD, your Blu-ray, however you want to watch it, get it past all the menus to timestamp 0. Being Disney Plus, we're not going to have to deal with any kind of extra logos at the front or commercials or anything, hopefully. So we'll just press play and get right into it. Austin, given that you have Canadian Disney Plus, do you have any of that?
No.
Oh, good.
No,
okay. Just making sure. Because we've had to deal with that with, what was the last thing that we had issues with?
It was Danny Phantom, because I had to watch it on Canadian
which
Amazon.
Which was Paramount Plus.
And you had Paramount Plus.
Yeah.
That's because it's Amazon and Paramount Plus.
It took 9 minutes to explain to everyone what things they had to pass through before we could even watch an episode. We had to do it every time. All right, this is going to be a lot of fun. So, once again, full disclosure, I've not seen this movie in years. I don't know it very well. It's going to be kind of like seeing it for the first time in some ways. And Brandon will help take us through it a little bit because you're actually legitimately kind of a fan of this movie.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Everybody, if you need a timestamp, just ask for it in, if you're watching live, just ask for it in the live comments, and hopefully somebody will help you out. Here we go. Everybody, please press play right now.
So last night I was on a call with Noah on our Discord, and I was like, I'm excited to see Tron. I know a lot of people say it's boring, but a lot of people say that Star Trek the Motion Picture is boring, and I thought that movie was enthralling. And he goes, oh yeah, Star Trek the Motion Picture is awesome, but Tron is really boring. It's like, oh no.
That's rough.
I'll admit that Tron. See, there's parts in Tron.
That's rough if it turns out to be true. Last time I saw this, I remember going, "Oh, I'm not as bored, but I still don't fully understand what I'm looking at."
There are parts that seem lacking just because it's a visual thing, like just these areas instead of all this dialogue.
Wow, that is a crowded arcade.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're already starting with some video gamey stuff.
It's a great arcade.
See, it was the right
Perfect
call.
way to start this Mania.
It was the right call to start with Tron, absolutely.
Oh, I miss the days when games were just lines. Because
For a
I definitely
while-
remember that.
For a while, I had this game on my smartphone.
Well, and
Oh,
it's funny
great.
you say this game because somebody not being in the know might think that this actually is a video game movie in the purest sense, like it's based on the Tron arcade game,
Yeah.
and that was one of the first major video game tie-ins. It's really interesting that Tron became a classic arcade game, but was based on the movie and not the other way around. This light cycle game that they're playing at the beginning is kind of the main game that people remember from that arcade machine. It's the only one I was even half good at, and it was still really hard. That machine is darn hard.
It looks like it's basically like Snake, but with a second person.
Yep. But if you play it against the computer, it just murders you every time.
Yeah, you pretty much.
It's really rough.
So I like how the programs can talk to Master Control, and Master Control is a program, but Master Control knows about the outside world, whereas the programs and the people inside Tron, they refer to what they think of as users, which would be like a god to them.
Yep.
Governing their moves. But Master Control knows, but he doesn't give those secrets up.
I think it goes without saying that you wouldn't have Reboot without this movie.
Oh, man. I remember that.
That show was kind of this movie for kids to some degree.
Can you stream that anywhere?
I forget. It was streaming somewhere for a while. I don't know if it still is. If you go back to the Ninja Turtles, and I don't know why you would, but if you go back to the terrible stage show Ninja Turtles Coming Out of Their Shells tour, I swear to God, they took the crappy Shredder helmet from that directly from the villain from this movie, because that's what that helmet looks like.
That's funny.
And that is Warner. What is his first name? I can't think of it.
Brothers?
Say it again.
Is it Brothers?
No. Stop it. No, this is a Disney film, which for the longest time I didn't know.
Take it back.
Yeah, I always forget that.
David Warner is the villain in this, who's one of my favorite actors, and he's got a lot of Star Trek credits, and he was in Ninja Turtles 2. I'm going to try to make as many Ninja Turtles references as possible during this Tron video. For no reason. I remember all of the exposition in this being really clunky and kind of hard to follow. Like, when you say, Brandon, that a lot of this is just about the visuals, in such a way where it feels like it's, or what I remember about it anyway, like it's conveying a bunch of information that it knows what's going on. It understands the mythology. That was kind of a problem with the Matrix sequels a little bit.
Right.
It's like, there's this really complex mythology here that the people making this movie seem to really understand and appreciate, but they are not communicating enough of it to me. This is holding up much nicer than I thought it would.
Oh, I think it's a beautiful piece visually. Also, Austin, if you saw a few seconds ago, there was that text on the screen. That's how computers used to work. Typing in codes. It was all codes. Even I remember doing codes on Windows 3.1.
Well, isn't it crazy to think? I mean, to that point... Sorry, I'm marveling at this because it's a lot prettier than I thought it was going to be going back to it. This is a lovely transfer, too, by the way. I mean, the last time I saw this movie, it didn't look this good. I mean, we're clearly looking at a remaster that I didn't have last time I looked at that, or, something closer to... Blu-ray quality or whatever.
I have the special edition Blu-ray with the sequel. I got the combo pack when they came out several years ago. Also, Jeff Bridges' laboratory, or Flynn's laboratory. Yeah. The laser stuff that gets him into the Matrix in a little bit is the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory. They have a laser center there. It's phenomenally huge and phenomenally powerful.
So the graphics here with the first-person POV, where they're taking down these flying ship things with the legs, is clearly right out of Star Wars, right? Like they are ripping that off a little bit, because if you go look at the vector graphic Star Wars arcade game, that's what that interface looks like.
Well, even what you see inside Star Wars, the movies,
exactly. But that right there,
when they're talking about the thermal exhaust ports and whatnot. Now,
no, but I'm saying like the gunner.
Yeah. You're absolutely right.
Graphics, yeah.
Now I don't know if it means anything, but I've noticed something on this watching is that all of the stuff that's down, like on the base, is all following the grid lines. But these big giant collector things up in the air are moving any direction they want. They're going all over the space, rather than just in line and angles.
Oh, okay. That's also, I'm pretty sure, a game in the real world arcade game with the collector things. Isn't that in there? I just haven't played it in so long I can't remember. I'm going to try to pull that up and play it maybe on a stream at some point.
So is this the closest Disney has ever gotten to doing Star Wars, then?
Yeah, I guess so. Mm-hmm. You know what? I'd rather do their own original IP instead of like get their hands on something that prominent, because I'm afraid it might be a little bit watered down and too mainstreamy, and I don't know.
That's why Guardians worked, yeah.
Good call, sure.
So Master Control's trying to find out who his user is.
You know, Austin, Brandon and I have been talking a lot, and you finally get a word in, and it's just facetiousness.
So Flynn is trying to gain access to this Master Control program because it's trying to.
Thank you
take
so
over.
much for explaining what's happening in this movie.
Yeah, and so he's trying to gain access. So the program doesn't actually know it's being controlled by a user, by the user Flynn. I may have missed a line of dialogue, but that's what I get from remembering that scene. So, and then when Flynn enters into the into everything, that's just interesting how they handle that.
There's some real classic filmmaking going on here, I think. Like, I didn't remember this movie being this classy about stuff.
Yeah.
That is such a cool transition, where you've got the helicopter with the neon around it, and they're making you wonder like what world you're in. You figure that's probably yet another game they're showing you.
Yeah,
and then we're in the
helicopter.
real world now, and like it's flying over a real city, so like it's hinting at like it's not playing games with you too much. It's hinting, if you're paying attention, that you're in the real world. And then, oh wait a minute, we've seen this guy already, so what's going on? Like, if you're, I mean, it helps that I know the actor, but I mean, if you're really paying attention, you wait a minute, that we saw David Warner in a helmet, and then there he is, and so we're doing a really good job of communicating at least like what world we're in, and making you kind of wonder about it for a minute, even if whatever is going on in the game world is confusing, because it is.
Yeah. He's using a very advanced computer system for what would be at the time in his table as the user interface. And if you noticed, he had an on-screen keyboard, which wasn't done for another 25 years.
Yeah,
30
good call.
years.
Well, and I was also going to say that it's crazy that we've already jumped by 1982. I mean, this is just how innovative and ahead of its time this movie is, to a movie all about a graphic interface, when that in and of itself is so new for computers right then.
Right.
Like, we haven't had that for any amount of time.
Exactly, yeah.
It wasn't that long before this that, famously you had companies like laughing Steve Jobs out of rooms because they didn't even understand what the point of a computer interface, of a like visual interface was.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
We have text. What even is the application?
No, they're basically applying like early CGI to like rotoscoping.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we're faking a lot of 3D in this, but it's crazy how like fully rendered the textures and things look. Like it's somewhat simplified because it has to be, but I was marveling already just with the vehicles and things that we've seen so far, how three-dimensional everything looks and how rich the textures are. And it's just a really stylish kind of movie.
Oh, it's Clark Kent.
God, I would love to have that computer desk. Oh my goodness.
Like, I think one thing that maybe helps draw an audience in with a thing like this and not have too much, like, culture shock between scenes is this stuff doesn't look realistic. We're in a very heightened world, even in the real world. It's very Matrix in that way.
It's heightened,
or
but
Matrix
also,
is very this in that
way. It
way.
also feels like very super villainy a little bit without being like a
That's what I'm saying.
Villain,
There's a clear comic book component to this movie.
It's a lot. It's reminding me of.
Catherine Hall says this table looks cool. I think I am 50% talking about the table right now when I say that.
Can we just make your executive desk that? Let's just.
I would take it. I would love that. I don't even care if it screams evil. If it screams Darth Vader's desk. I'm sorry. What were we gonna say, Austin?
No, I was gonna say it reminds me of the corporate stuff of RoboCop.
Yes,
that's
absolutely.
Actually, I was going to make that point, and I forgot to. I couldn't remember the name of the company.
The Blacks and the Silvers.
OCP.
The OCP. Yes, thank you. That was on, I think, over New Year's, and I watched part of it. And
that's a great movie.
Nicholas says Steven Linsberger. We've got somebody in the chat that seems to really know this movie. Steven Lisberger invented shooting with a green screen and CG backgrounds before green screen and CG existed. He predicted early 2000 cinema.
There you go.
And Jedi Knight says this is Clark Kent versus Daggett. Speaking of that, Austin, do you not find yourself? Well, I don't actually know how much of the show I'm about to mention you know. I think you know most of it. But I was finding myself, and of course I've seen this movie, but I hadn't made this connection before. I found myself wondering if they were thinking of this movie at all, Bruce Timm and his team, when they made animated series Batman with "If You're So Smart, Why Aren't You Rich?" in the maze sequences with the hand that comes down. Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder that.
That's very Tronish, and of course that's about video games also, and being inside of a video game.
So this part with the laser,
yeah,
where they dematerialize the thing, reminds me very, very much of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Yes.
I have not seen in
which
forever.
is also a Disney film.
Yeah.
And they're almost certainly looking at this.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're bringing Rick Moranis back. They dusted him off. Being a new one.
Oh, are they really?
Yeah,
no
he's going
way.
to get a Disney Plus sequel to that. Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I had heard that. Well, and
you
knew when he came back to acting that...
I didn't know he came back.
Yeah, he was in a commercial a year ago, and
he came back like right after they filmed Ghostbusters Afterlife. I'm sure those people were probably like, like
what are we doing?
Right.
Yeah.
Earlier.
Oh my goodness.
That's all right. He would have just been in yet another mid-credit scene, and you know it. Like, that's all they would have done with him.
Yeah. It would have been him and Slimer, like, driving around in a bus.
But yeah, he kind of officially came out of retirement. He's like, my kids are all graduated from high school and college now. I can act again.
Yeah, 'cause his whole story is really sad.
Yeah.
Oh, I like Rick Moranis a lot. He's awesome.
I do too. But yeah, I was just gonna say, you knew when he announced he was coming back that somebody was gonna tap him for some nostalgia fest with a decades later sequel to something, and that would have been the first thing I would have guessed. There's also been talk about a Spaceballs 2 forever, and if that ever happened, they'd bring him back because he's one of the only actors around still acting now again that could even do it.
Spaceballs 2 is not something that I need to see, but at the same time, Star Wars is in such a place that it would be like the time to do it.
It would, but you'd have to bring
it also
probably a bunch of new characters. Because
Yeah.
I don't know that you'd want to see anybody necessarily recast from that, and you're already missing the main character and his sidekick, because both of those actors are dead.
Oh, yeah.
Because you don't have Bill Paxton or Bill Pullman anymore.
Wait,
Or
I
do you,
forgot
no, Bill
that
Pullman.
he's still alive.
No, Pullman's still alive, so you can get Pullman.
You can get Pullman, but
you
John
don't.
Candy.
I
But
feel
John
like
Candy,
I've
yeah.
just been gaslit.
And so is
Fuck
Dot
up.
Matrix. Joan.
Joan Rivers?
Yeah, she died.
Yeah.
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 So you don't have her either.
You don't have her either. Yeah, exactly. No, it's
Prince Valiant
Paxton
back.
that passed. It's Pullman that's still around.
The guy who played the father the king of Druidia, he passed.
Well, I don't want to just spend our whole Tron commentary talking about people who were dead in Spaceballs.
No, of course not.
Let's just talk about all the people that have died.
So that last scene was taken in Lawrence Livermore
rest
National
in peace.
Laboratory, by the way. Like I said earlier,
Oh, okay.
That's an actual laser setup that we were looking at, with added components. But obviously, the real laser doesn't digitize things.
It's weird trying to put yourself back in the shoes of folks that would have watched this when it came out, because going back to this, and we're in the 40th anniversary now of Tron, which is nuts.
Oh my god.
And we didn't plan that, but it just happens to be the anniversary year for this movie.
Yeah.
And
space paranoid.
If you go back in 1982, you're obviously with this arcade and stuff. I mean, this is a cooler, nicer arcade than most of the arcades you would have gone to back then. But like this is a pretty upscale, classy looking arcade. But that would have been obviously contemporary, and you would have been seeing something that felt very now and hip and dealing with something that was real prevalent in the culture right then. And you look back at it now and it feels very nostalgic, and it's kind of hard to go back and look at a thing like this and it not feel as old as it is.
Well, does this remind you of the Ninja Turtles arcade from the first movie? 'Cause you got to keep referencing Ninja Turtles things.
Maybe a little bit, except it's not multi-tiered.
It's not like a child slave thing.
No, it's not that. Nobody's going around saying Mentos are regular, and you don't have Mentos. Not Mentos. What was it? The kinds of cigarettes.
Menthol?
Menthol. That's what I was trying to say. Yeah, the Fresh Maker.
Menthol.
The
Fresh Maker.
This is a
Man,
movie.
he's so young.
This is yeah, I know. I was going to say that. It is true that people that men in particular get more distinguished with age. Because I go back and look at this movie and Jeff Bridges is nearly unrecognizable to me, because obviously I grew up with him older. Most of the stuff I've seen with him, he's 20 years older than he is here at least.
Yeah, when I first watched Starman a little bit ago, it was.
I've never seen that.
Oh,
Seen
you
what?
should. It's great.
Starman.
But it was like, oh wow, I've never seen him this young before, and that's even after this.
Another movie on your list, The Wizard,
Yeah.
has his brother in it.
Oh,
Beau
really?
Bridges. He's the dad in The Wizard.
I didn't remember that. And I probably wouldn't have put together that they were related anyway, but yeah.
You can see it in the face when you look at older Jeff Bridges.
Soon we're going to... Wow, Jeff Bridges worked out for just this scene. So we're going...
He lives upstairs at the arcade.
We're going to, in a couple
I
of
wish
shows...
I lived like that.
In a couple of shows, we're also going to do Last Starfighter, and there's also no way that movie's not looking at this a little bit too, with... Or at least both of them are looking at Star Wars and ripping off some of the same things.
Sure.
With, again, the graphic interfaces and things with the fight scenes, with the battle scenes.
Oh, he's got a little handheld there. Nice.
Jedi Knight, with those graphics, Tron should have been the most anticipated game of its generation. Yeah, and, I mean, do you mean, like, in universe, or the actual Tron game that came out? Because, like I said, it is regarded a classic. I think it did do really well in arcades. And it must have felt like kind of a weird meta experience to go to an arcade and play the Tron game. In a time where, of course, arcades were still the primary prevalent way people were playing video games, and the home market was big, but not anything like it would be even in the 90s. It's also interesting to note that we are 1 year, I believe, before the big home video game crash.
Okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
1983?
Mm-hmm.
So they know. So they work for the laboratory, but they know that that Flynn's character has been tampering, trying to get in and gain access. But he's also been doing some. This other guy, I can't remember his name right now. That
Clark
guy.
Kent. Yeah.
He's also been trying to gain access, trying to get information from Master Control. But the other guy runs Master Control and knows about it, but's not letting on. But none of the avatar, for lack of a better term, the avatars inside the programs, they don't understand they're being controlled by users, as far as I can tell.
So, Austin, the episode we were talking about a minute ago, the Riddler episode with animated series, also has to be watching this episode for the A story, because Riddler and this guy have exactly the same motivation. They're both programmers that got ripped off by the big corporation.
Mm-hmm.
Both
How
got
much would
screwed.
David Warner spend for a good night's sleep?
Now that's the real riddle.
So he wrote the Tron
real
program.
Tron.
And Dillinger's the one running things from the top. But since they shut down level 7 access, Flynn's all like, you can't, now we can't, now he's running everything. We can't get in, we can't unsecure Master Control's grip on basically the computer systems of the world. If they're as forward thinking as they've already shown themselves to be, they're talking about like interconnected devices.
Yeah.
And like an early form of the net. Gosh, that's just such a cool table.
Well, it's
He's got like a
really
little
is.
Star Trek graph on his table too.
Yeah, uh-huh.
It's interesting the ways in which this movie is The Matrix, but a lot like clearer and on the nose in its, not in the actual mythology, because again, when we go back in the computer, that stuff is confusing, but in the like social commentary of it all, because with The Matrix, some of this like corporate and I think government stuff is in there too, but some of this kind of corporate social commentary is in there. Here it's just the corporation in the real world is like made into a metaphor of control inside of a computer. And so like the thing that is turned into a metaphor is still in the movie. It's not like the whole thing is like a metaphor for corporate America. Corporate America is here. Like, it's
Right.
in there.
Right.
In The Matrix, the whole thing is a metaphor, because the machines themselves are any means of control you like, the systems at large, right? In this, it's a more narrow, specific thing, because it's just corporations.
All right, he's going to show off his hacking
The big,
skills.
scary, greedy ones.
Oh, he's gonna pull a Terminator 2?
He just hacked in. They're like, we're not cleared for this. He's like, step aside. I got this.
And actually, we could even draw a... you mentioned RoboCop earlier. Not just visually, you could even draw a pretty clear thematic connection between those two movies.
This vault door. Oh, my goodness. It's huge.
That's a hefty door.
Now, that's a big door, he says.
Busted Sim, maybe Reboot's writing is too good for most of this Mania anyway. Yeah, I don't know how well that would fit with a lot of this. Jedi Knight, so this movie did predict the metaverse. Yeah, and Megabyte is not,
So
if
he's,
memory serves anyway, not that far away from this villain, but I've not seen that movie in a really long time.
he's trying to wrangle Master Control right now, but
They
Master
both have
Control
big,
is
scary helmets.
starting to develop a mind of its own. And he's basically like, I'm trying to control you, and Master Control's like, I don't think so.
Which is fun, because he's basically wrestling with a personification of himself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that thing
So, like,
just,
you've got-
the computer just threatened him with made-up graphics
You've
of
got
paper.
ego run amok. A guy who plays God accidentally creates a bigger God.
Yeah, his own undoing.
Yeah. I mean, it's essentially Ultron, right?
Well,
So
now
the-
we're in Terminator 2. They're like, we got to break into the company.
Nobody
Right.
notices they're
And it's
there.
Terminator 2 in that you got an evil AI as well, yeah.
Yeah, and Flint had his little thing he could plug in to hack into the building.
Remember, all these things we're talking about right now came after this. And
Look at
that's
these
not to say that they're
supercomputers.
all looking at Tron.
Oh my god, that is the greatest sneaking move I've ever seen.
It's hard to say how influential Tron is on all of the things that we're talking about. But it's interesting that so many of them were made only a few years after this or less. So it's either something's in the air that this was already also latching onto, or in some cases maybe this movie was more influential than it's maybe given credit for. Like, I don't mean to say that people don't look at Tron as a major classic and as kind of an iconic movie, but I don't know, besides technology-wise, besides filmmaking stuff, that it gets a lot of credit for directions we went with science fiction and films, and maybe it deserves more of that. It's hard to say.
Well, maybe it's one of those movies that isn't looked that way by just like the general public, but is by filmmakers that just watched it and went like, "Oh, this is really cool. I'm inspired by this." Like it's one because that happens sometimes where like a movie will come out, nobody really cares. And,
Yeah.
just kind of goes away. And obviously, Tron like stuck around. We did a decades later sequel, but it's maybe not as big as you would think.
But some of that might have more to do with the corporation that owned it than anything, where it's like, what IPs do we have lying around? Because Tron Legacy was...
Well, and they're doing another sequel, I think, aren't
Yeah.
they?
Yeah, they're supposedly. At one point it was canceled, then it came back,
boy.
or some other project came into fruition. But yeah, apparently they're working on something. But that was one of the first movies, Tron Legacy, in this big, now long explosion of decades later sequels and kind of money milking movies, trying to hit you for nostalgia for a thing you haven't thought about in 20 or 30 years.
Yeah, and it falls into that like Blade Runner version of those where it's like you're taking a movie that was like a cult classic and wasn't super successful in the first place, and then you kind of wonder why it wasn't successful the second time.
Well, and you're marketing it to a mainstream audience, but simultaneously selling it on the nostalgia elements. So, like, the first thing you see in the trailer for, and we'll talk about this when we get to that movie, but the first thing you see in the trailer, if memory serves, for Tron Legacy is the outside of Flynn's, which isn't going to mean anything to anybody that didn't watch this movie, but it watches like, oh my god, I haven't seen that in so long, it's such a big deal, right?
It's like the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah, but and I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a cool looking building and it's memorable, and if you were a big fan of this movie, your heart might skip a beat when you finally get to see that again. Nostalgia works on me sometimes too. I get that. I get the marketing there, but it is confused marketing. Because, Austin, you're absolutely right, where it's like, why wasn't that popular? Surely we can make it popular with a mainstream audience. But the way you're selling it is, you all know about this, right?
So Master Control has just taken him and putting him into the game now, decompiling him. And
when I was a kid, I was like, what is happening right now?
So the interesting thing to me is that earlier in the movie, the people are operating the laser, getting it to do what it wants, but now Master Control has control of the laser.
So Wall-E also is inspired by this, right? It was from that specific shot. It was the circle with like the lines around.
Well, look at
it
the
that looked
Tetris
like
pieces. Look at the near
They look
Tetris
like the
pieces.
steering
I think
wheel.
you're absolutely right about Wall-E. Or, again, if not, it's a shocking coincidence.
There's a scene in the Explorers that
Well,
does
both
kind
are
of that
very
very
HAL
thing.
9000. But.
Well, that's a good point, and I almost said that. It's like, we also don't want to pretend like Tron is the first science fiction movie that was ever made, or the first science fiction movie that did anything with computers or AIs or anything. So we can look at some of the things that it was looking at as well. But this is, for the time, astounding and gorgeous, and then even for right now, doesn't look bad.
No, it looks great.
Whoa.
I like the isometrics that we just saw there a little bit ago, and so now he's on the game grid.
There's also a really smart blend once we're in the computer of real physical things on top of digital background effects and things.
So if you guys could be digitized into any game just like this, what game would it be?
That's a great question. I feel like he's been waiting this whole time to ask that.
No, I just thought of it in the moment.
It's a good. Oh, that's right. You don't plan anything.
Yeah, no, I just say things.
It's a good question. I had to think about that because despite the fact that I've played little, there's a lot I wouldn't mind being a part of.
Yeah. Yeah, for me,
Knights
it's
of the Old
gotta
Republic,
be.
maybe.
Oh, that's a
So
good
That's
answer.
a cool one, yeah.
That's an excellent answer. I think for me, it has to be a
Yeah,
platformer.
You better have something good, because it's going to be hard to top that answer.
I don't know if I can top that, but for me, I think it would be fun to, in a physical body, explore Mario physics, and I don't know if it's Mario 64 or, it's probably Galaxy. It's probably, my answer is Mario Galaxy.
Nice.
2 specifically, because the levels are better. But, one of those. What is it for you, Austin?
I need to think about it for a second.
So I wonder if David Warner didn't find himself in so many genre roles as a character actor because of this movie, where it's like after Tron, everybody wanted him because he plays a lot of villains in like sci-fi and fantasy things. And not only villains, certainly, but I just wonder if it wasn't for Tron, if that would be the majority of the kinds of things he winds up in, because he is, I believe, a stage actor and a stage-trained actor.
He's got a bit of a Kurgan helmet, the main villain from Highlander.
All we can do is talk about this helmet.
Master
It's an
Control is a
awesome helmet.
vindictive program. So these are the cells where these programs are kept. And they just
Well, he's based on a manipulative and vindictive person,
yes,
of course.
But he was also just talking about the villain guy was just talking to Master Control about how he was unsure about the fact that Master Control just brought a user into the computer because users wrote them. And how can you do that? How can we go against a user? They're like our gods. And the Master Control's like, well, he tempted me.
Yeah.
And I brought him down here like he tested me in the real world. Like, sorry.
And probably, like, look how far beyond the creator I already am. So what makes him better than me?
When the point was made that a user even wrote Master Control snaps back that no one user wrote me. I'm worth millions of their man hours. So Master Control knows that he's the product of a lot of people's time and effort.
Yeah, so it's like I was created by a collective, and I'm a singular, unique consciousness.
He's a Borg type.
Yeah, but it's almost like anti-Borg. It's like I'm better than the collective because I'm the singular result of many minds that came together, and individually they are nothing. But you put them all together, you get me.
Very Star Wars stormtroopers inside the bay, cargo bay.
Yeah, you can shoot them.
Bay.
It won't be a problem. They can't take that.
I figured out what my game would be.
Oh, go ahead, and then I'll read some of the viewers' responses to that as well.
Mine would be the PS1 Spider-Man game, because I think it would be really funny to live in a world where you can't go outside because it's filled with yellow gas.
Well, way to confine yourself to a corner.
See,
yeah, I'm basically living it. There's just no yellow gas outside.
I almost picked Sonic because if you went underwater, you wouldn't have to worry as much about drowning because you could just find like little bubbles of air.
Well, if you go into Sonic, are you allowed to like move fast, or are you just you? Like, do you get to the loop arounds and you're like?
I was gonna say that too. It's like, why is this even here? This world was built for one person, and it's not me.
So he's just talking
You gotta hum
about-
your own music too. You're like, oh, this is lame. I'm in Green Hill, but I just gotta walk around going.
There's piranhas jumping at me. This sucks.
He's talking about renouncing their beliefs in the users right now and to obey MCP because he's the one true
Frisbee.
everything. Like, they believe in users, but they have no reason to actually believe they exist. It's a faith thing.
Okay.
No, that's pretty cool.
I've forgotten about the religious angle with this movie. Okay, so I gotta read some comments here. Jedi Knight says he would live in a Pokemon game.
Nice.
Matthew Bass says Mortal Kombat. I don't understand that. I don't know why you would want to live in the Mortal Kombat world.
Because
that sounds
you
really
can
dangerous.
have your like heart punched out, and then you can just keep fighting.
Oh,
That's why.
I mean, I guess, but you can still get a fatality and be dead.
Yeah, but how funny would it be if you got stabbed in the eye, but then you still had an eye and just kept fighting?
I think what helps a lot of the computer graphics in this to hold up as much as they do is that it's so stylized and it's supposed to not look real. Like, there's so much you can get away with where it's like the whole world is digitized. The only thing that it struggles with is some of the dodgy green screen stuff where you can kind of see some of the chroma through it a little bit. I remember even being a kid going like, oh, that doesn't look quite right. You know, like the faces don't always look opaque enough, and
That's still something we struggle with.
sometimes, yeah, absolutely. But also, the heads sort of look like they're floating on top of the bodies a little bit, which is only again happening because of that green screen problem. Because they're if memory serves, I think they're actually like wearing these outfits, and none of this is, of course, put on in post in any way. I don't think you could have even done that back then. But the costumes are working with the background better than the faces are.
That guy that Flynn was just talking
I just
to.
assumed it was like a rotoscoping thing with CGI.
I don't think so because I mean, look at all the like contours in the suits and stuff. You can see.
No,
all
I
the
assumed like it
folds
had that, but they basically like went over it like rotoscoping, where they like.
I'm not sure how they
I
did
don't
this
think
movie.
they did,
Like,
but
but
I haven't looked at any special features with this movie in a really long time.
That was just my guess looking at it, just the way that they look. But
Somebody will tell me.
Flynn was talking to the other program there. His name was Rom, and he was an accounting program previously. Master Control pulled that program to put him on the game grid, which I don't know why he would need to do that, but that's how it works in Tron land.
Daniel Davis, The Omen actually jump-started David Warner's career.
who is he in The Omen?
Yeah, and I've never seen the original Omen.
Oh, it's pretty good. I like that
Me
movie
neither.
quite a bit.
But is that after this?
No, I want to say that's like around.
I thought
The
that was
Exorcist.
before this. Yeah, so I mean, because
That's
when I
on
said that
Disney
earlier, I
Plus
didn't mean
here.
that David Warner didn't get any work before Tron, but I'm just saying,
Yeah,
like, I
no,
wonder if it's
7.
because of Tron that he got kind of typecast to some degree as bad guys in sci-fi and other genre stuff. Because he's got kind of menacing yet intellectual prowess to him, where he can be really intimidating with just the kind of 40-yard stare that he gives, and this kind of sense that he's always 3 steps ahead of you and knows more than you know, and all of that.
Oh, he's the photographer.
Which works to great effect in Chain of Command and TNG, when he's help me out. It's been so long. I'm rusty.
Masset?
It's not Masset, and I knew you were going to say that. Or is it Masset?
I think it is.
See, there's 2
Masset.
Massets, and I always get thrown off with the Masset of it all.
But speaking of next gen, I was going to say this looks like a very holodeck, esque game from TNG.
It is, yeah.
Finish
him! What I meant was kill him.
Not gonna do it. Not gonna do your bidding.
There.
Help him up.
There's a lot of
Oh, that's very bread and circuses.
it is. There's a lot of that's really great. There's a lot of really impressive attention to detail just in the way that's a great shot. Just in the way the lighting and colors are done, Brandon, in the computer effects.
Oh yeah,
with all the gradients and things, like that light effect is really cool.
it's really neat. Now that we've talked about it,
The
I'm
circles,
gonna look
because
this
how
up
easy
really
would it have
quick.
been for that to just be one solid blue?
Oh yeah, no kidding. How was Tron?
The Omen is 76. Okay, thanks guys.
Yeah, I looked it up. He's the photographer in that too. You should check that out. He's a good guy in it.
Oh, cool. Yeah, and he does play good guys sometimes, but he's mostly in genre stuff after this.
So
yeah,
the,
that movie's pretty good. It's on Disney Plus here.
He also does a lot of voiceover work too, and he's in Batman the Animated Series. He's Ra's al Ghul in that.
Oh, I didn't realize that's who played him.
Yeah.
The
You have a
first
really
episode with
British
him is
sounding
so
Ra's al Ghul
strange.
in that. Sorry, what?
The first episode with him is so strange. Do you remember that one?
Yes, it's weird. That's the two-parter?
Yeah, where it's like a guy in a jackal mask rocks up and kidnaps Robin, and then it's just like Ra's al Ghul's model but with a jackal mask, and then he shows up to Batman.
Oh, here we
and he's
go.
Like, you gotta help me find my daughter and your sidekick. But it's clear who it is.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
Yeah, they play it as a big reveal. No, it's weird.
so apparently CGI goes all the way back to the movie Vertigo.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that. That's insane. You know, that was 1958, I think I read. But this was the first movie to extensively use CGI. And there's a full 15 minutes in this movie of only computer-generated imagery.
Yep.
Where
Yeah,
there's
remember
only
when,
just computer, like this. It's just computer stuff.
Well, and imagine how big of a novelty it would be. It would be back then for your big action set pieces to be scenes where nothing is physically built.
Right.
Now we take that for granted and
Right.
and sometimes lament it when it doesn't look like it's actually there with people.
So there's a...
remember when we'd have movies where it was like, there are this many effects shots in this movie?
Yeah, there's no reason to even say it anymore. And when somebody says it now, it's absurd. It's like, we had 395 effect shots in this movie. I'm like, yeah, that's how movies are made now. If you went to a movie theater and saw it, chances are it's got a lot of effect shots. It's not wholly true, but you know what I mean. I mean, heck, even movies that aren't effects movies sometimes have 300 effect shots because of de-aging effects and stuff.
Right.
You know? Like, there's now a Scorsese movie with that many effect shots.
Oh, Ram. His name is Ram, not Rom.
Where's Nog?
Ha.
Oh, did you see his
Far
face?
From Home.
Ah.
Far From Home has a scene with Nick Fury where he's on a green screen, even though the background is just brown behind him, and he has like a CGI gun.
Oh.
Tyler Overall says there's a whole long process they used to create those lines on the suits, having to do with exposing the film multiple times or something. Okay, I'd forgotten about that. I couldn't remember if there were actually any real lights in the suits, because I honestly can't tell just looking at it, which is a testament to the effect.
So I have to wonder. So obviously these
I'm sorry, can I stop you for just one
Yeah.
second? Because just looking at this, I have to make this point.
Yes.
One thing I think that also helps it to not feel too dated, even going back and watching it now, is the
Pac-Man on the
if you
screen.
if you know what video
Pac-Man
games,
stuck.
if you know what vector-based especially games looked like back then, and they're supposed to be inside of one, this is all what it should look like because they're using the same technology. And so when you have, especially like the big collector things as you described them coming down from the sky and all of that, there are. Man, I'm trying to remember the name of that game. There's an old racing game I used to play that looked exactly like that.
Oh yeah.
That came out in the early 80s. And it's primitive, but that's what games like that looked like back then, so that's what it should look like. Now, I will say that there is an inconsistency in effects because you have stuff like this where the light cycles look as like three-dimensionally or three-dimensional and textured as they do, and then you get things like that where it looks like it's not even fully rendered yet, where it's almost like we're looking at several different games all at the same time.
Uh-oh. Whoops.
Where you have vehicles that just look like a lot of wiring altogether.
Right. Like when I draw stuff in AutoCAD.
Oh, it's gonna drive me crazy trying to remember the name of that.
It's called wireframe. You know, is the main.
There you go.
It's just all the
That's
external type stuff. Yeah. So
yeah, this looks like the world from the tutorial level of the Spider-Man 1 movie game. Like it's like here you swing around. Bruce Campbell makes fun of you.
Stun Runner.
So what I was
Stun Runner. That's the game.
Oh yeah. I was starting to say earlier was that this is kind of the personification of what the programs would be like operating on inside the electronics. But I think it's interesting to note, like you wonder like the tanks and things. Those are security programs. You know, trying to get at these other programs that are trying to escape. But where would a program actually escape to? If you had a program that was bringing other programs in, I wonder if those programs, you know, actually kind of understand that they're not operating the way they used to or where they were supposed to be.
Good call.
But yeah, that's a earlier the Pac-Man shows up on that screen and.
Yeah, that was cool.
This is Stun Runner, Brandon.
Okay.
I cannot watch this movie without
Nice.
thinking about this game.
I can see why.
Yeah. But you see what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Arguably though more graphical, but hey, I see exactly why you're talking about that.
Robert Wilde, The Omen is a great family movie that truly captures what it means to be a parent.
It really is, though.
Name your kid Damien.
We had a couple super chats from earlier that we haven't answered yet. We should go ahead and do that. Hi Ice 007, a name I don't recognize, welcome. Cindy Morgan, after finding out what she will be wearing, goes missing for weeks, calls studio to say, I'm in the gym and not coming back until I've lost 5 pounds, and she did. I don't know what any of that means.
What? I'm gonna find this so I can read it.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Who's Cindy Morgan?
I don't know what he's talking about. Yeah. Well, we might be being trolled with that super chat, but thanks for the
What are they drinking?
for the super chat.
Electricity, I guess.
Oh, she was in Tron.
Oh, okay.
Is that her?
Okay.
She's in Caddyshack. Oh, she was in Chips. Remember Chips?
Yes. Eric Estrada.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so he was just telling us about something that happened with this movie.
Oh.
Yeah.
So according to him, was that for this movie? So she goes missing for weeks, and then says, "I'm in the gym. I'm not coming back until I've lost 5 pounds," and that's what she did. That's crazy. Interesting.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You go, girl.
Well, thanks for the support and the information. You're not trolling us. I appreciate that. And see, it's like, how much of this set is set?
Right?
Well, I mean, you can tell some of what's got to be just background, but, like, some of the foreground stuff, what did they build? Like, I'm assuming there's some real water there.
Sure.
No, this entire film is practical. They just went to this world.
Oh. Okay. Well, I'll stop trying to figure that out then. But yeah, like, they had to have at least built a couple of platforms here, right? I don't know. It looks pretty good. When those light cycles come out, Austin, you can see them kind of pop into frame. They don't look like they don't look like they come out of the.
I think I'm a few seconds behind you, so that worked out.
I'm struggling to comment on the pacing with this movie, which again I always found kind of slow, because it doesn't feel poorly paced talking over it. I'm having the same thing, Brandon, that we did when we did Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
Yeah.
Where I'm appreciating this movie more, and especially hearing you talk about it because you know what's happening in this, and which is why I'm really glad you're here. And kind of picking out some of the thematic ideas while kind of sussing them through with you guys. Because when I'm just watching this, it's easy to kind of get caught up in the slow pacing of it.
Yeah,
Yes.
I want to see the version of Star Trek: The Motion Picture that everybody else sees, where it's super boring.
Because you really liked it.
No, I watched that movie I started it at like 4 in the morning, and I was like, I'm probably gonna fall asleep. And then it started. The entire movie, I was like, this is enthralling. I love this movie. It's great.
Daniel Davis says that she and Bruce Boxleitner co-starred in a TV show immediately after Tron. I wonder what that was.
I can find out. I had her Wikipedia open.
Oh, cool. Okay,
Give me
Brandon,
one
we'll see you
second.
later, buddy.
Yes, I'll be right back.
Brandon's going to leave, and we're going to have no idea what's happening in this movie.
After these messages, Brandon will be right back.
Well, don't say that, because then people will think they have to pause the movie. Now we have to get commentary from Lego Batman.
1982. It was Bring 'Em Back Alive, I'm guessing.
Oh, okay. Well, that's probably the reason that he didn't feel the need to tell us the name of it, because it's probably a thing
Yes,
that
that-
nobody's
that
ever
is it.
heard of that was on for like 9 weeks. I
Yeah.
don't know.
When I clicked on that Wikipedia, the logo for it is like the most 80s thing I've ever seen. Actually, it's more like 70s, but it's early 80s, so you still got some of that stuff holding over.
The most late 70s, early 80s thing you've ever seen.
Exactly. I like that.
Austin, this is the best time, as good a time as any to ask you this question, and I'm not making a joke when I ask you this. I'm just curious, like you being the age you are and being in Canada and being in an area I don't know anything about. Have you ever been to anything like an old school arcade? Like, do they have those there? Have you been to anything beyond like a barcade?
I guess like I've been to arcades before. Like, obviously they don't look like this.
Sure.
But, like,
Yeah.
but like ones for like kids that don't serve alcohol. Yeah.
I was just curious.
I went to a Disney arcade in Florida too at one point.
Oh, what does that look like?
I don't know. It was like Disney, but I played that Captain. That was where I played the Captain America and his Avengers game. I played through all of that.
Okay. But like a Disney arcade, does it have a lot of retro? Is it only things Disney owns?
No, it's just like it was an arcade owned by Disney.
Okay.
So
Fascinating.
they had like Disney or whatever on the outside. But no, we got like.
When I said
70s
old school, I meant just
stuff
like something that
that.
wasn't like a Dave and Buster's or something. Because I've been to a lot of arcades that
Oh,
only
well, I
have
went
say
to a
like
Dave and Buster's, and
I've been to arcades that have say only like 80s and early 90s things where they're trying to be as pure to this era as humanly possible, and that's fun. That's not where I live nostalgia wise because I'm weirdly a tad too young for that. Because for me, arcades were the early to mid 90s, just as arcades were starting to come out of fashion. So I'm looking for like your Killer Instincts and your Crazy Taxi machines and that kind of stuff, Sega stuff, or more Sega. I'm Killer Instincts, not Sega, but more Sega stuff.
no, I went to a Dave and Buster's once with my uncle, and I think he was like 17, and they were like, "Oh, you need somebody that's old enough to drink to be allowed to come in here." And
Oh wow!
yeah, my uncle was like, well,
I don't know if that's true anymore.
I'm like, well, whatever. We should be allowed to come in. And the person was like, just go to Chuck E. Cheese.
So this collector thing that they've absconded with, it's slightly broken, and it had a piece fall off of it earlier, which was really funny. But it flies kind of crooked because it's broken. So when
Right.
it's moving, it's kind of off kilter.
I wasn't
just
actually
think
looking at
that's
it,
hilarious.
But what I remember is one of the legs is busted off. Right?
Yeah, it cracks off and then falls, and it's funny because you're just like, okay, program's damaged, I guess.
Hi Ace just put in another super chat. Thanks so much. If you get the 20th anniversary DVD of Tron, it's loaded with behind the scenes and interviews and production versus finished shot comparisons. And
Oh, nice.
I either had that or borrowed it from somebody at some point, because I know I looked at a little bit of that, but again, it's been 10, 11 years. I don't remember anything anymore.
I know there's a bunch of stuff on my special edition with the second movie, but I've never opened it. Like, it just sits on my shelf.
That's its legacy.
The legacy of Tron Legacy. That's why you don't want to use that word in your title. Especially if people don't like it.
Oh no. He's gone. He de-rezzed.
He left like Yoda.
Oh, do you think he's going to be a Force ghost later?
Thought I told you.
I don't know what that is.
I was going to say, if he is,
care.
just don't ask Harrison Ford about it, because I can't even preempt your jokes anymore.
So South Park did an episode where they spoofed.
I don't know why. I thought you were just going to stop there. South Park.
South Park. They did an
That's the perfect
episode
segue.
where Kyle Broflovsky has to go.
At least he didn't say speaking of, right? Because nobody was speaking of South Park.
It goes with his little brother to this thing called Jubilee, which is a camp for little Jewish kids. Well, there's a master control program there who's supposedly one of the old Bible prophets, but he looks just like Master Control does at the end of this movie, and kind of operates the same way.
That's funny.
And so whenever I see Master Control, I think of a line from that South Park episode where he goes, "I require," and then he pauses and he goes, "Macaroni pictures."
So wait, did South Park make Tron but with Jewish people instead of program?
No, actually, they have an award-winning episode
That's
where they do that with
real
Facebook and
funny.
Tron.
Oh, really?
It's awesome.
Wow.
It's a full-on Tron and Facebook mashup, and it's great.
Oh, that's awesome. I've only seen like an episode or two of South Park, but I should check out some of that.
See, like, some of this is rough, where they just, the characters just don't look like they're actually in the place where they are. But then, there's also an argument to be made for this almost exactly as it is. Like, again, faces get a little bit too grainy, and that's not intended, but you've got 3D people, like human actors, who are touching two-dimensional panels and standing in front of sort of two-dimensional backdrops, because the world of a video game wouldn't be full-on 3D. So, like, my problem with Tron Legacy is a lot of it looks too real to me. Like, I want it to be a little bit flatter, a little bit closer to this.
Is it, like, having never seen it, is part of the issue with the look of that movie that it's more like, say, like vanilla in that sense, where it's just kind of like, yeah, here's modern CGI, while this is like a look?
That's some of it, where it didn't feel like, and I mean, maybe you can't go all the way to try to push some of the same envelopes and be, or like new envelopes, and try to do what Tron did, where it's like, well, we've got to try to reinvent like some other kind of major, wheel. What's up, Brandon?
Huh? Oh, I'm listening to you.
Oh, okay.
I've got something to add when you're done.
You had this look on your face like, I'm waiting for him to stop talking, and it's distracting.
When you do,
What's
I have something
up,
to
Brandon?
add.
Go ahead.
Well, so I just looked up. So much of these effects are actually backlit optical effects, but because there was so much computer-generated imagery in this film, they divided up the visual effects between 4 different companies, and that's new knowledge to me. That seems.
See, that's what I was going to say is
together?
There's a lot of stuff where you can tell it's got to be some practical lighting and not just drawn on.
Right. I like their light suits. That's backlit.
That's what I was going to say is what I couldn't tell is if there are actual lights on the suits that are glowing, or if it's coming from behind somehow. And I guess that's what they're actually doing. Oh God.
He's just destroying things. Oh my goodness. Holy cow. I forgot about this part. He's trying to keep it together.
But yeah, with and Legacy, that reminds me of, say, like, the Alien to Prometheus thing, where I think Alien's got a really cool look of its own, and then Prometheus looks way too modern and doesn't look like it's the same world.
Well, and I don't think the problem with Tron Legacy is that is it because I think Prometheus is a different animal where it doesn't
It
want to look
definitely
like
is,
that
but I mean,
world.
I'm
It's
thinking
trying
about that.
really hard until it was late, and then they just ran with it to make you not even know it's an alien movie until you get to the end. But with the right, like it wanted to set itself apart. It's sort of like the Star Wars prequels, where it's like it doesn't. Episode 1 didn't look enough like Star Wars to some people, and that was kind of the point, where it's like it's earlier and things are a little different, like let's go our own way a little bit. With Tron, it felt generic to me, where it was like it's trying to look like the same world, but with making it the way you would now if you started from scratch with this idea. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Where it
Well,
just
that's why I
didn't feel like
thought
we were
of
being very
Prometheus.
creative in the implementation of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean that you should go back and make it exactly like this was made necessarily, because you can improve on this, of course, but maybe it would have been smart to do more practical stuff and for it to be kind of a mix of modern CG and a little bit more practical stuff, and maybe even a little bit more hand-drawn animation and stuff like that to try to give it a unique look. Because you're right, it does look too much like some other things that are going on right then.
Yeah, the reason why I thought of
It looks better than Green Lantern.
Yeah. With the generic thing is just because Alien has a very like 70s retro future design, and Prometheus is just kind of everything that we were doing around that time with like the holograms and all that.
Oh,
stuff.
I see what you're saying. Well, and interfaces and stuff too, right? Like whenever we go back to Star Wars, and especially that initial era of Star Wars, even the Disney stuff always tries to make the computer panels and graphics and things look like the 70s. But I don't think that was really the problem with Tron. It was just like I feel like I'm in a computer program here to some degree, and
Right.
in Legacy, I didn't have that. It felt
It's almost like more CGI-y in a way.
and
See,
then it didn't help that you had a CG Jeff Bridges in the real world who wasn't supposed to be a computer program.
Yeah.
I've never been able to get my head around that. You could do that here.
Right.
That'd be okay to some degree, even if it's inconsistent, just because my brain fills in the uncanny valley with that because we're in a computer program. You can't, in the same movie that has essentially a Matrix, have
No, I
a
assume the
CG
CGI
person
Jeff
walking
Bridges
around
is
and just go,
world.
oh, that's a de-aged person, and try to get me to like suspend my disbelief and run with that, because I really thought there was going to be a big reveal where somehow a like digital person had walked out of this world onto the real world. It isn't that. And I can't deal, or at least I don't think it is. I don't remember much about that movie anymore, but like I remember that being the big thing I couldn't deal with it, and having a lot of arguments with people about it.
I couldn't deal with the fact that that at the end the woman came into the ISO comp. She came into the real world. She was a program. She was never physical to begin with.
Yeah,
it's like Space
I forgot
Jam
we actually
2.
did that with somebody, but I don't think it was with Jeff Bridges. Sorry, what?
It's like Space Jam 2.
So we just went 2 minutes with
I don't
two
wanna-
lines of dialogue.
I don't want to talk too much about that because we're gonna get to that movie.
I
and
don't
watch
want
it.
to talk about that either, so that works with me.
It's gonna be really weird watching that for the first time in 12 years.
Right up until this scene, we went like a whole 2 minutes with only 2 lines of dialogue. So that's where it gets, they were climbing around things,
Oh,
but
that
not
guy
saying
looks
anything.
awesome.
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
He's
This
a conehead.
is- This is a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy BBC move right here. This looks like something out of that show.
Yeah, that guy looks awesome. I like him.
So this is the guy that came in to talk to the guy at the table earlier and was like, I wrote part of this
Oh.
program. Yeah, you recognize him? He's the old programmer
Now that you
dude
say that, yeah.
who he threatened. He was like, we can terminate you if we need to. And he's like, that was uncalled for. Yeah, he's been around a long time. He's an old timer.
So this movie also probably inspired Wizard of Oz, where you're seeing some people from the real world enter like the.
You gotta
game
strike that and reverse it, sir. I think there's probably a little Wizard of Oz in this, right?
Yes.
No.
So he just got allowed in.
Nicholas,
This is an area where Master Control hasn't yet infiltrated.
Nicholas Montez says that looking like Green Lantern, or better than Green Lantern, is not high praise.
I've still never seen that. I need to see that at some point.
Need
Oh,
is
the
a
logic
strong
probe.
word, but
They're gonna do
this is neat.
some logic probing.
Boy, that's a really cool design.
Yeah, this movie looks really good.
It looks really good, and I just love all the surreal stuff.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if this is like a 4K upgrade for Disney Plus. I don't know if this has been released
Because
on that.
it's a gorgeous transfer.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I remember as a kid being blown away by the visuals with this, but it didn't look this good.
I'm gonna have to.
That's 'cause it was on
open up my
VHS.
special
Yeah.
edition.
That is true.
If you want that same experience, you could squint.
Ha. You need a 4x3.
Exactly.
Legacy just this is Nicholas Montes again. Legacy just has teal for the good guys and orange for the bad guys. I get that they're doing the thematic binary computer thing, but this one has a really cool variety of magentas, purples, pinks, and cold tones. Yeah, and that is missing that. And why on earth would you not bring that palette back?
So it has occurred to me just how much they changed and didn't do for Legacy that they did for this movie.
You know what else is looking at this movie?
What's
the
that?
TNG episode The Game.
Yes.
I love
Absolutely.
that
It
episode.
has
Oh
to be.
man, that episode is so bad.
I don't think there's quite as much sexual innuendo in this.
Okay, you know
Right.
what? Strike my answer from before. If I could be digitized into any game, it would be the game.
The Game?
Oh man,
Where it's
those
just like a
little vortices.
With just
Yeah, it's just
circles
a
and
tornado you,
cones?
like throw a frisbee into.
Yeah, it goes into a
Well,
cone,
that
and you
way-
just have to imagine a cone popping out and grabbing it. It's harder than it sounds.
Well, that way
No, I
Austin
want to
can
see a
increase
tornado,
people's
but instead of a
dopamine.
cone, I like jump into it.
Austin can increase people's dopamine that way.
I don't even exactly. I don't even want to figure out where you fall into like the sexual innuendo and analogy and that whole thing. If you're in the game,
You really don't want to know.
I don't even understand that. I feel bad for this guy.
He's a gatekeeper.
I would. That
Where's
guy's
the
awesome.
Keymaster? Well, yeah, but like, it's just forever you're like this.
He's like
That's
a
my
T-Rex.
biggest nightmare
It's a
as a
keyboard.
writer.
I think
It's
he's
just
on a
I'm never
keyboard.
allowed to get away from this position. Do you know what your
Oh.
back would feel like? I mean, he's a
Look
computer
at it.
program.
Yeah,
He's
look.
probably fine.
Cap, all the dinosaurs fear the T-Rex.
I mean, I bet this actor needed back surgery after filming this movie, but
Uh-oh.
oh, he's just a T-Rex. Is it?
Yeah, he's just like...
You know what's a crime? That David Warner never played a Kryptonian. That's a crime.
What if he plays one in the new Superman movie?
It'd be awesome.
Nice.
I mean, he's getting up there in age. He hasn't done screen stuff in a long time. Last I heard, he was
Yeah, he
still
can be
doing
CGI.
some stage stuff. Oh, he'd be CGI. Oh, okay. It'd be somebody just doing a David Warner impression. I mean, I think he's still active, but
Uh-oh.
I saw an interview with him 3 or 4 years ago. It's been a while. Oh yeah,
When
I forgot
said
about
that,
this
assuming
like
that he died. So.
kind of American Gladiators stuff. Hey, do you think American Gladiators was looking at this movie with like the suits and the helmets and especially the color scheme, right? You had the red and the blue, and
I think
they got the
this-
big mallets, and that's after your or before your time, Austin.
This movie's
I know
looking
about
at ancient
American
Rome.
Gladiators. There's a Simpsons episode where Milhouse's mom.
That's the
is
only
dating
reason
him.
you know what that is. In fact, that's probably true of lots of stuff. Oh, I know what that is. Wait, is it because you saw a Simpsons episode about it?
Can we talk about this synth soundtrack?
Let's do
It's very
Synthy. Yeah. Okay. So what would you like to talk about, Austin? Yeah, and I mean, I'm just kidding.
No, I
It's-
was saying the same thing.
You're like, oh crap.
Cap, you just got
When you say
called
talk
out.
about it, you mean now I have to actually talk. Well, you broached it.
No,
You
I
brought
know,
it
but
up.
I said the same thing you did. It's very synthy.
It's synthy.
Cap, you
It's-
just got called out in the
It's
chat.
appropriate in that you're in a video game world and the movie is about, like people going into a real video game, and so you're gonna want as much stuff to be synthetic as possible. And I would have to go back and listen closer to the score in the real world and see if any of that is synth, because I think there was kind of some just generic normal orchestral stuff earlier, was there not? That was kind of trying to crib John Williams a little bit. I thought I heard some of that earlier, but I wasn't paying super close attention. And that's smart if that's what they're doing, because it feels like we're trying to carve out a specific, unique tone for each of these worlds, and it should be doing that. You're also in an age where a lot of video games don't have much or any score at all yet. And so if you make this movie even 5-6 years after this, when we're well into the NES era, and where a lot more video games are going to have, like, honest-to-God score, this soundtrack sounds different. Because there's not really a lot of chiptune stuff yet. And you make a video game movie in 1987, and your soundtrack is going to be chiptuney, I would think. This is going to more of a like general MIDI sound, because that's what you would have had on any computer games at that point, for what little score you had back then. Like, a little bit after this, we're going to get to the Commodore 64 and stuff like that, and any of those games are going to have, the ones that have any kind of score, it's going to be something closer to this sound than your, like, 2-3 channel NES thing, your square triangle.
So, Cap, Daniel Davis is calling you out.
Oh, fair
David
enough.
Warner played Jor-El in Lois and Clark.
Oh, he did? I didn't remember that.
So he
Wow. Well, that's awesome. I didn't remember that. Did he really?
Apparently.
It's
So
been too
take
long
that.
since I've watched most of that show. Well, good. He needed to play a Kryptonian. Well, and I was second guessing myself, because for a second I was like, did he maybe voice a Kryptonian in the animated Superman show? I wasn't sure. But yeah, if he actually did an on-screen Jor-El and I forgot about it. Look, man, it's been 25 years for some of that stuff.
How dare you?
So I'm not mistaken. The thing
Oh,
that-
thanks, Tyler. We'll see you later, buddy. Daniel Davis, the score was actually by electronic trailblazer Wendy Carlos. Ooh, he does the thinking around here.
Isn't this
Is that
indicative
more
of the laser?
social commentary about corporations that want all of their employees to be peons and cogs in a machine?
See,
Are
this
we
is
going back to
completely animated.
Metropolis to some degree?
Like, this looks like
This looks
television
hand-drawn.
animation, right?
Yep. And some stuff in this is, certainly.
Oh yeah, that's absolutely. It's just Disney animation now. We're in the that Mickey Fantasia segment with the brooms.
I was gonna make a reference to Fantasia earlier because of all of the abstract stuff, and that connection never occurred to me. Why did Disney make this movie? Oh, their animation house is involved in this. Like, I never even put that together.
Do you think Fantasia was inspired by this then?
I don't. I don't. You know why? Strike that. Reverse it.
Strike
So
that, flip it, and
Master Control
reverse
used to be a
it.
chess program. I forgot that.
I'd forgotten about that as well.
He goes, I'm old enough to remember when Master Control was just a chess program.
You know, Austin, when I have epiphanies, I just can't help it. A lot of this.
No, and
So-
you keep striking me with those Missy Elliott lyrics.
In the last scene where they were on this ship,
I just want to take that out of context and just post it somewhere.
You should just yell that at people. That's what
We
I do.
we need completely out of context previously on videos for Geekvolution content, or like last time on, and do the stupid Disney Plus thing where it says previously on, but there's nothing underneath it. It's previously on, and then man, you're just really getting me with those Missy Elliott lyrics. That's all you get.
Yeah, one of my friends told me I should write a book of just random things that I've said like that. So just no context, just that. That's just a page.
And then
One
have it
day.
illustrated with unrelated illustrations.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know what's happening in this movie.
In the last scene on this ship, before we went back to the
Don't tell
other
me you do. You
character. No, this is the laser. This is the laser that's supposed to get him out of the program.
Is it the laser?
Yes.
Whoa.
But he finally admitted to them that he's a user. I forgot that it happened so late in the film. And he starts to make advances on her, and he steps in like, "Don't you touch her?" But he's like, "No, I know the person who created this program." He's like,
It's
"What do you
real.
mean?" He's like, "I'm a user." He's like, "If you are a user."
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
like, "I
I
am
heard
a
that part.
user."
Ooh, that's a nice music cue. A little busy,
So
but
now they're at the Death
it
Star.
fits this material okay. If it was a nuclear power plant,
Well, they're in the trenches flying the X-wing.
yeah, you're right.
There's like 6 Death Stars.
Well, that's true in Star Wars too. At this
It
point,
reminds me
Yeah.
of like a light sail for a spaceship. And how cool is this shard of a spaceship, though? By the way, like I think that's just a cool like evil ship they're on.
oh
It
yeah,
looks-
definitely.
It's
Oh,
kind
yeah,
of curved
that
on one side and angular on the other.
When they're flying around on a butterfly right now, these people.
Uh-oh.
So I wanted to say a minute ago that maybe there's a little bit of like a Jesus allegory thing going on with the with like God coming down to man and man not believing that it's actually God, where like that scene that you were talking about is like almost like a Pontius Pilate kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I can go that far because I don't know if it's like straight up Judeo-Christian or if it's a little bit more elemental than that, more kind of universal like creation myth stuff, because after all, it's a pantheon, if it's anything, right? Like, it's not, you don't have one user, you have multiple users that all created this thing, and you're kind of stand-in, Brandon, for Satan in this movie is also one of the users
Yeah.
and runs everything, and so like it's not exactly Judeo-Christian if you want to start trying to break down the religious aspect.
Robert Wild in the chat.
I would have to
mentioned
actually sit
something
down
I
and
was
watch the
gonna-
film to try to figure out what that is, but yeah.
He mentioned something I was going to bring up too, which is that their ship that they were on, that like butterfly-looking thing, is the Count Dooku's ship in Attack of the Clones, where it has the sail that opens up.
Yeah, like a
good
light
call.
sail type thing.
I think we can pretty well say that that is not looking at this, probably.
Probably not.
I mean, it's similar, but I bet they're both going to the same well with, like, sailing.
When Jar Jar
ships
Binks
and stuff.
shows up, you'll be like, oh, George Lucas did see this.
Okay, but this part of the score sounds like the whale probe in Star Trek 4, and that's weird.
So they think Tron
Particularly
is
at the
dead.
end of that, the-
They think Tron,
you know, when it's communicating and they almost like put subtitles on the screen to tell you what the whale was saying. Anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, they think Tron is dead right now, but Tron actually held on to the outside of the ship and is coming to the rescue.
Now, I want to know how many people went and saw this in the theater and left the movie theater not remembering which character was supposed to be Tron, because I had that. Which one was Tron?
It was the world.
That guy has no face.
Oh, it's Indiana Joe from the Mario show.
Never
Have
had
you
that
seen
reference on this channel.
Have you seen that one with Indiana Joe? He just has no face.
It's
awesome.
been forever. I don't remember that, but
Yeah,
Oh
it's
my.
in Raiders of the Lost Koopa or something.
yeah, it's ridiculous how ambitious this is. But yeah, there is a lot of 2001 iconography here, and I mention that because, especially with this third act, I'm reminded so much of motion picture with V'ger and stuff, and like both of these things are looking at that same material, and that would have only been 4 years before this. Motion picture's what, 78?
That sounds about right. We have now reached
78?
Master
Star
Con-
Wars is 78.
No, Star Wars is
Isn't that-
77.
Oh yeah, that's right. Never mind.
Yep, Star Wars 77. Motion picture is 79.
Dang.
So that probably comes out just as they start making this.
They have just reached Master Control.
Oh yeah, Daniel Davis, that is true. George Lucas is definitely looking at this because it's the visual effects thing. He was probably looking at this and he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna do that."
Oh look, it's being derezzed.
Everything's CGI.
Yeah, but he's thinking backwards. He's like, oh, how can I fix the movies I've made already?
That too, but I was just thinking about how Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith are just entirely on green screens.
Yeah. That's a really good point. But again, it works for this because they're supposed to be on a digital plane of existence.
Yeah.
Like, they're literally in the place where you'd be filming that.
Yeah. This movie, this movie.
It's the
doesn't
only way to
have,
do that.
This movie
Oh,
doesn't
man.
have Samuel L. Jackson interacting with CGI clone troopers.
Weirdly, the only way to make this more believable is actually to computer generate all of it, and when a human being comes into this, they're digitized to the point where you wouldn't have a real person there, because it is a little bit weird to see
Whoa.
human faces in this world because they look too real with the rest of what's here. So the uncanny valley here is reversed. The physical real faces are creating an uncanny valley with the animated stuff because that's what looks real for this world.
Yeah.
This was just begging for a Saturday morning cartoon show that never happened, right?
I'm shocked
watched that.
they didn't do that.
I am too. And then Legacy got one.
I mean, you could kind of
that,
reboot
like,
that in
applies
a way.
Well, sure. I mean, that was clearly massively inspired by this. That has always horrified me.
Yeah, right? This
Yeah,
just
that
this
guy's
wide
awesome.
face.
That guy's right out of like Pink Floyd's The Wall.
That's true. That's an album cover.
But just remember,
Yeah.
Austin, when you watch that South Park episode, I require macaroni pictures.
You know what else he is? He's evil Zordon.
He reminds me of, so I've been wanting to say this the
Oh!
whole movie, but he reminds me of a younger F. Murray Abraham.
Okay. That's what God in Star Trek V should have looked like.
Yeah? Yeah.
Oh, that would have been awesome.
Yeah.
If William Shatner walked up to that and was like, excuse me. That would be the greatest thing in film history.
What does evil Zordon need with a starship? Hey, Brandon, let's
man.
cosplay this.
That'd be cool. Oh, man. He just got juiced up.
Okay, every superhero film is looking at this. They just took the big red beam shooting in the sky and made it blue.
Oh, man, he grew to Attack of the 50-foot...
Oh, man, I forgot he got giant. That's awesome. But see, you have to do that because you can, right? Like, you're in a computer program. Why wouldn't he get huge?
This movie's awesome.
This movie is awesome. You know what? We won't beat this. Like, it sucks we had to start with this. There aren't very many movies on our list that are even as watchable as this.
No, but that'll just be funny.
For you.
So he's making he's
know.
making love to a computer program.
Yeah.
See, I have to keep reminding myself that he's a user. Because he's been in here for so long. I wonder if it was a misstep to not go back to the real world a couple more times than we do.
Yeah.
Because it is very Wizard of Oz in that way, Austin, right? Where it's like... I mean, we do go back there, like, once, I guess, where we come in here to kind of establish it. We don't do that with Wizard of Oz. It's not like we, go and establish, like the Tin Man and the Lion, et cetera, and then go back to Dorothy, and that's kind of how this handles it.
Yeah.
Oh, look, he just shot the through the thermal exhaust port, 5 meters wide.
I guess the better obvious analogy, except I'm tired of it because this is all anybody does anymore, is Alice in Wonderland. And the Matrix just comes right out and references that. That's so cool looking.
Yeah, there's that like awful Matrix 4K cover that's just the rabbit from Wizard of Oz. Or Alice in Wonderland, sorry. I had a...
That's just the rabbit, the tornado from Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah.
And...
Well, the tornado was like, I'm late. And then Alice was like, I should follow that late tornado.
I'll get you and your little tornado, too.
So is it reconfiguring now?
You tell me, Brandon. I don't know what the hell's happening right now.
I guess it... well, okay, it's gone.
And it's gone.
The big red beam in the sky turned blue for a moment, right?
Yes.
So it really is a superhero movie.
It's releasing a bunch of...
There's a lot comic book about this movie, certainly.
Oh, so everything's going back to the way it was.
It's a bunch of album covers.
No, this is just the wall now.
I also think...
All for it.
I also think that you could easily take a lot of footage from this movie and just make, like, at least a segment of another Fantasia.
Oh, for sure.
Just get the right music.
Yeah, just get some Pink Floyd. Play Time over this.
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably go slightly more on the nose in a different way and do something chiptune-y, but sure. Daniel Davis, yeah, this is pretty dang fun. Daniel, is this your first time watching this, or were you giving us a lot of information earlier? I can't remember who was doing what.
That was,
well, there were a couple people that were.
Yeah.
Robert, wow, what does a starship, or what does a program do with the starship? That's a good question. Oh, that's right. Busted Sim. The Krypton in Superman the Animated Series was voiced by... The Krypton was voiced by the other evil British computer program, Tony J, who is, if memory serves, also Chairface Chippendale. Brandon, how weird is it, after spending that much time in that program, to suddenly see 100% real stuff again?
Oh, it's a new movie.
Yeah. And that's intentional. That's cool. I mean, maybe that's a really good argument for not going back again, and forth very much.
Yeah. So, Space Paranoids was the movie. It was the game he was talking about earlier, and we saw in an advertisement at Flynn's,
which is a terrible name for anything.
Well, he was writing it, and he couldn't get it to the system because Master Control was eating everything. So now he's got the rights to it, I guess, is what it's looking like.
Oh.
Well,
and
it's
he comes
like
back
how
to work the next day, and he can't access Master Control.
Real quick, just to finish that point, this is jarring in a great way, in precisely the way it ought to be.
That's very much like the Wizard of Oz 2, where Dorothy wakes up and she owns the rights to Kansas.
Right.
Their entire discography.
That's why over the closing credits it was Dust in the Wind.
Oh, I just meant the state, but yeah, the band.
No, I know, but...
No, I know you didn't. I took it a little farther.
Yeah.
I was going there just as you were. We live in Kansas.
Yeah.
And I like the band. I've never seen the band Kansas. I hate that I've never seen them live.
Their violinist died a few years ago.
Oh, man. I didn't know that.
Rats.
Now all he is Dust in the Wind.
God, Brandon.
I'm gonna have to rewrite my will now. In my will, it said that the violinist from Kansas has to play at my funeral.
Ha.
Oh, Daniel
I'm
says
a
he's watched it
violinist
before,
from
but it's been a
Kansas,
while.
though. I'll play at your funeral, Austin, if I live longer than you.
Yeah, Daniel,
That'll probably happen. I'll just put Brandon Grimm instead.
I did
You'll
hear
die
from
playing video games.
I did hear from a couple people earlier, Daniel, who said they'd never seen this movie before, but they were going to watch it with us. So I thought you might have been one of them. But it's cool that we're introducing this to some people because it is underappreciated in certain ways. How do you feel about how it just kind of ends?
I like
where
that
it
closing
ends?
shot though
A
because
lot of movies used to do
it's a
that.
sped up shot.
I don't even know that it's a problem. I just think it's interesting. Like it kind of gets in and does its job and gets out. It's weird because sorry, real quick, it ends.
No,
like,
Disney Plus. I do not want to watch Tron Legacy.
It not yet. We gotta wait a while. We gotta watch 35 movies first. No, it ends in a way where it seems to think it's paced more rapidly. Like it knows it's an hour and 35-minute movie, but like the pacing of it does watch slower than that. But it really does seem to sort of like get in and do its thing and get out. Like it's economical, it's efficient, and yet when you're in that middle portion, it does drag a little bit.
Wendy
But I don't
Carlos.
think the movie knows that.
Yeah.
Well, in so many movies in this era, like you get to the end and it just kind of stops. It's like, okay, we're done.
Yeah. But I have respect for that with a lot of things because, you know, the point of telling a story is you've got a break in status quo. It's not just, you know, the day-to-day random happenings of a person. And then once it goes to either a new status quo or gets back to more or less where it was before and you get an opportunity for change, and now we know everything we need to know about how that character has grown or has a self-discovery or whatever it is, the story's over. So I appreciate it when an epilogue knows it's an epilogue, where it's like, this is not really part of the story anymore.
You know what the greatest, just like, okay, that's it, ending of all time is?
What's up?
Is the third Transformers movie where Optimus Prime allows the Decepticons to blow up Chicago, and then they have an hour-long fight scene there, and then he murders Megatron, and then he's like, the one thing about the Autobots is we will never forsake humans. And it just rolls credits.
That's pretty good. Real quick, I was going to ask you if you thought Transformers was looking at this at all. Because I kept thinking of that.
Yeah, I think so. I think
it was a little bit. You were going to make a point about the ending.
The ending there, when you look at that scene and it's sped up, it's a view of the city, which is much like the landscape of Tron, and the linear lines made by the fast-moving lights and the little points of light made by the fast-moving cars are kind of indicative of being inside the Tron-scape, you know, again, the game grid again. And so there again, it's another allegory.
Matrix code!
It's another allegory for those are another allegory for the grid being very much like the heightened reality of the movie's reality.
Busted Sim wants to know why Dust in the Wind wasn't played over the credits of Infinity War. That might have been a little bit on the nose, right?
I think it could have worked. They could have made it work. Somebody cut that.
I want to make a fan cut that's the only thing I change about it. This feels like modern end credits, where like
Yeah, you should have just cut it off there. This feels like modern.
You know, with the exception of the green.
No, it's modern end
So
credits
South
because it's longer than most credit sequences or most just, you know, credits at the end of a movie back then. Because very often I'm like, oh god, I better get my point out real quick. We're watching a movie from 1980 or something, and it's going to be done quicker than we expect it to. And this is a big special effects movie, so it actually has all the effects artists like we get in every movie there is now.
Filmed in
Just the
super
wall of text
Panavision.
comes up.
It's not just
Yeah, I
Panavision,
turned my
it's
credits off because it was just trying to play Legacy.
So you didn't even... you get to see the Matrix code.
No, Disney Plus is just telling me that if I like Tron, I should watch A Wrinkle in Time.
That's unfortunate. You shouldn't watch that if you like movies.
Okay, I don't want to hear some middle-aged white guy tell me.
No, we're not doing that. We're not. No, shush. Stop talking. I don't want. Stop it. I don't want that to be what we leave this commentary off with. Okay, so Austin, what did you think of Tron?
It was awesome.
I hope that's playing in a. I hope that's playing in a theater somewhere this year for the anniversary because I would really like to see that.
That'd
in
be
theater.
Cool.
Oh yeah, I guess it is the anniversary this
I
year.
just said that at the beginning of this commentary.
We talked about that earlier.
We talked about that. It's the 40th
40th
anniversary. We didn't plan it on purpose. It just worked out that way.
And didn't Legacy come out for the 30th?
I think they were off by a year or two.
Yeah.
No, they were because wasn't that 2010 when that movie came out?
I'm pretty sure.
It wasn't 12. I guarantee you that. It was 9 or 10. Yeah, no, they were off by the anniversary.
Okay.
It was premature. They should have waited a couple of years, or they should have made it 3 years earlier. But it should have been for the 30th or the 25th. That's how they should have done it.
Yeah.
Well, it's like Bond. We got No Time to Die last year. This year is the 60th anniversary. It's like, oh,
yeah.
no movie this year.
And like, I mean, I don't care now because it ended up being the worst thing ever, but like Discovery comes out on the 51st anniversary of Star Trek, and at least they got Beyond out for the anniversary, and that was good, so good on them for that, but...
Hey, you should be happier.
I don't know why I did a Ferengi clap, but you know. Or no, that's Bajoran, that's Ferengi.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I forgot. Anyway.
As long as you're not performing Umox.
Nobody cares. Yeah, no, it's not After Dark. Just stop it. Anyway, well, everybody, thanks a lot for watching. Austin, what movie are we ostensibly doing next time? Because we're still finalizing the list.
Yeah.
So, guys, some things could come off. Some things could come back on. I'd like to maybe streamline it a little bit and take off some things that I don't know that anybody's really going to care about and that probably won't be all that much fun to, like, watch or make fun of or anything. But I'm not totally sure what's going to stay on and what's not. I mean, right now the plan is to watch at least everything theatrical that is based on a video game. But, Austin, there's a couple things here and there that are things that I don't know that anybody's ever heard of, that I don't know that anybody's going to show up for. So I don't know. I guess we'll...
That's part of the fun.
Oh, you think so? Okay.
We're introducing people, yeah.
I guess we'll look
the next
closer
one
at it.
Is War Games from 1983.
Which only got on the list today because, or was it yesterday? Because somebody...
No, it was today.
Was it somebody in a stream that mentioned it, or was it...
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Captain Logan's show last night. Somebody was like, "Hey,"
yes,
and I didn't even.
It was last night.
That's what it was. I didn't even think of that, but
I've never seen that.
Definitely counts. I mean,
when I saw that, but I didn't know enough about War Games.
It occurs to me that we could add toys for the same reason, but it doesn't, I think, have quite enough to do with video games because it kind of just rips off War Games at the end. But there's not a lot of video game stuff in it because it's about more traditional toys, and then the social commentary as it is that's not a great movie.
I've never even heard of that.
Video games are the new toys, and they're kind of taking over and like leaving kids' imaginations out, and all of that. But yeah, that was a kind of little known Robin Williams film that is very strange. Although we could maybe consider doing it because it would be really fun to watch you watch that movie because it's weird. It's really freaking weird. We might consider adding toys. I don't know. But like I said, only for the fact that it rips off War Games. But yeah, I've never seen War Games.
I haven't seen it, but I have it on Laserdisc. Recently acquired.
That part in Winter Soldier where they reference War Games, I always thought it was a Saw reference until people were like, oh, it's War Games.
Busted Sim says no Ready Player One. No, that's on the list, is it not?
Mm-hmm. Yep, Ready Player One's on there.
If it's not, it needs to be. I actually like that movie. I'd like to do a commentary on it.
I am scared about getting to Ready Player One.
Have you never seen it?
No, I've never seen it.
I haven't seen it either.
I actually like it quite a bit. I think it'll be fun to do.
I remember when you saw it.
I think that's the best thing Spielberg's made in a long time.
You said it was a return
That's
to
my
classic
biggest worry.
Spielberg.
Is I'm not a fan of modern Spielberg. I don't like the nostalgia thing, so I'm just like, I don't know. It's maybe two negatives make a positive, and I'll walk out being like, that's good.
Maybe so. I mean, Eric was worried about all the same things that you're saying, and he and I both walked out of the movie really liking it. So I don't know. I mean, it's not like the best thing ever or whatever. And
No, it was
I don't
a
like
spiritual experience.
I don't like the
for you.
material it's based on. What little I've looked at, because I can't deal with that prose, and I'll never read that whole book. But
That was a spiritual experience for you, Cap, when you watched it. You were like, I'm a new man now.
there are a couple of badass Star Trek references in that. It's pretty cool.
It's like, oh, it's Khan.
Somebody has.
Khan.
Do you want to know, or do you want me to save it?
I need to walk away for a second anyway, so you can say.
Okay. There. Well, you're still gonna hear me.
No, I'm not. No.
Should I whisper? Like, he's just going right over there. I don't. Was he going upstairs? Where's he
What
going? Is he
is
stealing
happening?
my stuff? Like, where's he going? No, Austin, there is a, somebody in that movie dies and is buried in the torpedo from Wrath of Khan.
Oh, they're gonna say somebody's like, he's dead, Jim. But
And
That was
that's
good,
honestly, that's pretty freaking cool. Like,
Mhm.
I mean, I'm a giant Star Trek fan. Even I probably wouldn't do that, but just the visual of that was pretty neat. Like, anyway, well, I kind of want to end this before he can even get back. That's because I think it's funny. Oh no, he's on his way. It's not going to work out.
I'm just gonna hang up before you can do that.
Anyway, everybody, thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. We're kind of belaboring things here. We're going to go ahead and get going. But we'll see you again in 2 weeks for another one of these. Austin and I are going to be going back and forth between these and some other fun little Friday night projects. Next week, we're going to do another... This will be dated now, if anybody goes back to this later, to going through this Mania. But next week, we're going to do a... marathon on some Batman the Animated Series episodes. So a couple things requested from Patreon, and then we'll pick a few others that we really like. So as we've been doing with those 4 or 5 episodes, probably. What are the episodes we know for sure we're doing? Do you remember?
I have no idea.
I'd have to go back live. I know one of them is Bane.
Bane.
Oh, and Time Out of Joint is in there. The other Clock King episode.
Oh,
that's
Clocking's
a-
your
we can
favorite,
do the
right?
Hand of Fate
It's a weird
episode
one.
now.
You know, maybe we should. I mean, I've done a commentary on that before, but it's been forever. We totally could.
Mhm.
Isn't Clock King like your favorite? One of
Yes. Kind of. It's a thing I played up for a long time, but I do really like Clock King. I always hesitate saying that because it's not like a character I know a ton about. There's a lot of different iterations, but I do love the idea of Clock King.
So, Clock King was to you what Man Thing was to me for a long time before I was like, you know what? I'm just going to become a Man Thing expert. I'm just going to read all of
Exactly.
Man Thing.
Yeah, where you play up an obsession with it, and then people start asking you questions, and then you're like, I don't actually know anything. Like, stop it.
Well, people would ask me questions, but it wouldn't be about Man Thing. It would be about my, like, health.
Oh, well, I mean, mental, because I have questions about that myself. Daniel Davis, this was fun.
As
See
do
you
I.
guys later. Busted Sim, I love this. Bye, guys. I did not watch the movie.
Just listen to us?
A lot of people do that.
That's
In
cool.
fact, I think the percentage is probably well over 50%.
Oh,
Of people
I
who
didn't actually know that.
just listen to the commentaries, even if they don't know the material, which is why you might sometimes wonder why I'm always filling in
I mean, I just know you to do that, so never bother me.
dead air, where it's like, well, it's a commentary. If they're watching with us, you probably don't have to always be talking.
Right.
But yeah, I know there's a lot of people that don't actually watch the thing, so that's why I do
Well,
that.
Yeah,
That's cool.
50% of the audience, you're weird, and I look down on you for that.
They come to see your pretty face.
On that note, thanks for watching, folks.
I especially look down at this thing.
Guys, what Robert Wild, Cap likes Clock King more than his own kids. Thanks a
Cool.
lot for watching, everybody. We'll see you again real soon. I'm going to be doing another stream tomorrow night over on YouNow. I'll post about that soon, and consider coming and listening to some music about Spawn. That's what we're doing tomorrow. In the meantime, I was Captain Logan, and this was Brandon Grimm.
Brantron.
Brantron.
I
Brandon,
am a Grim.
it was a lot of fun having you, and I hope you come again. And
War games, please.
Yeah,
I'm begging.
you are definitely invited to that. And Austin, I will see you again real soon.
Yep.